Okay, so what you're looking at here is a list of projects that we as a maybe general contractor have been contracted to do. And we have like 5 of them here. They all have certain start dates on them. And ultimately what we want to do is figure out what the number of days are going to be that are going to take to do each of these projects, all right? And then take that number of days, add it to our start date on each of these, and come up with some sort of a finish date. Now, the way we're going to do this is because we've never done any of these things before, we need to come up with some sort of a system that will look at similar projects that we've done to these, look at the worst case, or I should say the best case scenario, or the best case numbers, for those projects that were similar to, let's say, the Hannu-Apalani, road project there, similar to that. So find a bunch of the best numbers there. Look for other projects similar to it that were in the worst case scenario, and then take the middle ground and find a few of those and make those the most likely. So what we do to make this happen is we would go down here to the Similar Projects tab, where we've set up those 5 projects that we have here on this list. And then what we've done is we've put in there, like for the best case scenario, oh yeah, we had this project and that project, this project, that and this. These were the number of days that it took us to do those. And then what we do is we average them. All right, so we take all these numbers here, average them. That's what we have here. All right. And then the same thing when we found similar projects to this, and they're like the worst thing. So we find that like the 5 worst numbers, average them up and put that here. And then kind of like in the middle, we find those, let's say 5 projects or whatever number we have. And we put those in and find the average. Okay, so you get that part so far. Now what we're going to do then at that point is take then each of these sets of numbers and bring them over into here. So have them all set up in there. Okay, so one thing I want to show you is how you're going to link these numbers, okay, to this area here. Now, once we've done that, then we're going to put together a formula here that will look at these 3 numbers and find a weighted average, okay? And I'll explain that when we get to that point, all right? But we'll find a weighted average to these, put that number in here, all right? That'll give us a calculation, and that will end up giving us a really good guesstimation as to how long Hannu-Apalani will take us to do, all right? And the same thing with Hanan and everything else here, okay? So let's start this. Let's first of all look at the similar projects, and we have the average here, okay, for the best case scenario. Okay, so the best case scenario, there's your averages, right? Now we need to get these guys linked over to here. So here's what we do. We'll go back to the similar projects. We're going to select that range right there. And there's a lot of different ways of doing this, but I would say that this is probably the easiest way, okay? So then we'll do a right click on that. We're going to hit copy, all right? Then we're going to go back to the date projection, click onto here. Now, we're going to do a right click, but we're not going to just do a regular paste, because if later on maybe if some of those numbers change in that that other tab and update the averages, we want to take advantage of that, all right? So what we're going to do is we're going to link them. And the way we do that is we go over here to this very last one right here called paste link. Click onto that, and there they go. So there's our first set. So those numbers there are coming from that area there. Okay, now let's do it for the other two. So we'll select this next range, right-click it, hit copy, jump back here, go to our worst case scenario, start, right-click, and then we've got our paste link. So there's our second one. All right. Then we'll go back, get our third range, hit copy, go back to the likely column, right-click it, link it, and there we go. So that's perfect. Now, here's the fun part. We're going to do a weighted average of this. And here is what's been going on in, I guess, the construction industry for many, many years. They actually do use this type of calculation I'm about to show you to do a guesstimation sometimes of a project like I've been describing. What happens, though, is that what happens more often than not is this ends up being, the one that's called most likely, ends up happening more often than anything else. All right? So these numbers here that you see, if you did this right, and these were kind of like your middle ground numbers, in most cases, this will be the right thing to do. Okay? So what we need to do specifically is put together a calculation over here that says take this number plus that number plus 4 times this number, okay, to come up with our weighted average. So we call it a weighted average because we're putting more weight on this than the others. The others are going to be 1, 1, 4. So it's almost like we're going to have like 4 of the 209s, right? And therefore then you'll then divide all that by 6 because this is like having 4 of these, 5, 6, right? Okay, so here's how it works. We're going to go over here to B2. We're going to hit equal, all right? And pretty much what we're going to do is we're going to say I want to take this number here plus this number here plus, and then we're going to take 4, the number 4, times, put our asterisk in there, this number. So by doing 4 times G2, it's like you putting in G2 plus G2 plus G2 plus G2. See? Don't have to worry about parentheses or anything because think about it, multiplication is done first. Okay, boom, there that is. And then your plus and minus happen, last. Well, there's nothing left but those. So it's going to take this 4 times G2 plus F2 plus E2, right? Now, though, here's the problem. We still need to take all of that, whatever it ends up being, and divide it by 6. Well, if I put in a right slash right now and type in 6, is in essence going to do G2 divided by 6, and then add to that 4 times G2, and then add to that F2 and E2. And that's not going to come anywhere near an average, right? So what we're going to do then is we're going to go back to the beginning here, almost, right about there. We're going to go ahead and put a left parenthesis in there, go to the end of here, and put a right parenthesis in there. So we're going to take that entire calculation and then divide that by 6. You see that? So we've got 1 number, 2 numbers, and then 4 numbers. That's 6 numbers. And when we're doing averages, you're basically taking the total divided by the count of how many numbers, right? So there we have it. We enter that in, and then we go ahead and copy that down. And there we go. We can also then hit this guy and not mess up our formatting. There we go. So that's pretty good. Now, here's the key to this, right? This is a very successful and a very much used calculation, what we just did here, right? So if you've got a contractor who just decides, well, I'll just take the average of my best, worst, and most likely numbers, the average of those three would end up being 231 days, all right? Here, we've got 220 days. And if this is a proven, somewhat proven theory, this company that's just doing the overall average is going to be overbidding and thus maybe more of a chance of not getting the job. Whereas this company that's using this calculation is more likely to get it because they're bidding less days, thus less cost, and they're kind of underbidding everybody else. So it's a pretty important aspect of business in that area. Now, once we've plugged in those days, then what we can do is we can then take that number plus the date to come up with our finished date, when we'd expect to finish it if we were to start on these dates. So how would we do that? We'd say equal. We click on to the number of days, right, plus the start date. Enter that in, and there we go. And then we can take that and go ahead and copy that all the way down. There we go. That's pretty good. Pretty easy. Now, some of you out there are probably saying, well, Chip, that seems that's all based on us working 7 days a week. In other words, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, all the way through Sunday. We don't work weekends, all right? We only work Monday through Friday. So if we're skipping the weekends, then what does that really project us out to? It's going to be much further out than 826 for this first job here, right? So what would you do in that case? Well, it's not usually covered in this particular segment of formulas, but in the function formulas, we have a function formula we can use that would figure this out, thus skipping over the weekends and just giving us just business days. Now, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to show that one to you here using this example, because this is exactly the same example that I use in the other class to show you the function formula. So what I think I'm going to do is I'm just going to insert a new column in here, and we'll put the formula in there, and then you can kind of see a comparison between the two, okay? So I'm going to go ahead and just do a right click here, hit insert, kind of push it all over. Nothing's going to get messed up here. And this is going to be our, I'll just call it the weekday one. So this is going to be like business days or weekdays only, calculating. So we start here, we type in equal, okay, and we type in WO, and there's your workday, and we double click that. Now there's a minimum of two things it needs to know. The first thing is the start date. Well, okay, the start date is going to be this one right here, so we click onto that, right? Then we do a comma, and then it wants to know the number of days. Well, the number of days will be the 220. We'll click onto that. Now, if you also had a list of holidays over on the side here, like New Year's, Martin Luther King Day, 4th of July, all those, Easter, everything that's in there, you'd put it maybe off to the side, and you'd put another comma, and then select those holidays, right? We're not going to do that here. We're just going to figure we just don't work weekends, and that's it. We work holidays. We'll just do that. And that's why you see this in brackets, because that's an optional thing. So at this point, that's all you need to do. So then we go ahead and hit the Enter key, and there we go. Now, you go ahead and you copy this down, and I mean, that is a major thing there. I mean, we're going from 8/26, I mean, almost the end of August, to being almost to the end of November. or we thought we were going to be ending sometime near Halloween, and here we are well past the new year, okay? Just because we're not working those extra 2 days every week. And that's pretty much it. So hopefully this can come in handy for maybe some of the work that you're doing. If anything, maybe you're not worried about too much about the formula that we did, but just understanding that, wow, we can actually calculate out finish dates based on a starting date and then the number of days we want to project out. That's a good thing to know. And also this whole thing with linking data, from another sheet like we're doing here, the averages, and linking that into here to be able to use. So some good little features there, but hopefully you did like this video, and hopefully it will help you out in the future. So take care. Thanks a lot.